We have game 2 up on the board here, and again, like the last board, there seems to be a lot of cards on the board that you would want to buy. Jack, Menagerie, Cultist is a big deal, always is. Warehouse, Village, Counterfeit, Peddler, all these things you would like to put into your deck. There's also Trade, which is nice. It enables a money strategy quite well, and there are a few money cards on the board actually. Trade is one, Treasure Trove is another, Counterfeit with Treasure Trove, maybe, sorry. Now I see my opponent open with a Beggar, which is kind of questionable. I expected that to go with a Cultist, but instead he goes for a Counterfeit. So I could see the Counterfeit opening instead of the Cultist. Maybe that's fine. Cultist is such a big issue because it just puts so much junk into your deck so quickly. Like if it was just Witch on the board, maybe something with Jack, Warehouse, into Counterfeit, Treasure Trove could completely ignore the Witch. But Cultist, I don't think you could do that. Jack trashes the ruins, but you play one Jack per shuffle and then Cultist puts 5 ruins in that same shuffle. You could do the maths, right? So I go Warehouse and Jack here, looking to build up some kind of Cultist thing. I wanted to cycle as quickly as possible with this Jack because I expected Cultist to come out from my opponent. I didn't see it on the first turn, but I'm still on the fence about whether or not he'll go for it because, like I said, maybe the Counterfeit opening is okay. So maybe you could buy the Counterfeit on turn 1. Turn 3 you get it, you get Cultist then, and then you start to go after Cultists from there. Maybe. Anyways, 4 for me is going to be a second Warehouse. Again, because I anticipate Cultist coming out from my opponent. So here's 6 from my opponent. Still no Cultist, a second Counterfeit instead for my opponent. So not entirely sure where he's going with the second Counterfeit, but we'll see soon enough. And I'm pretty happy I have both warehouses now. Well, I say that after I've played the game, but the 2 warehouses, exceptional work because I did not consider at the time Menagerie, and the warehouse and the Menagerie work very well together. I did pick up one on my turn 4 again, just for cycling purposes. I was expecting ruins to come into my deck, still am, even with the 2 counterfeits that my opponent has bought, so I would really like to get things under control as quickly as possible. And I soon enough will have to go through the same decision that my opponent had to go through. On your first 5, do you buy counterfeit or do you buy cultist? Cultist, sorry. So here the warehouse works real well. Menagerie draws 3 cards. I have 0 complaints with that. And I am going to get rid of the jack here. I felt like the jack would have caused me to trigger a shuffle after playing the workers village, so that's why I didn't play it. So I answer the question here. I go for the counterfeit first, and then afterwards I'll go for the cultist. So my opponent has picked up a treasure trove in the meantime. So it seems like he's going after a more money style strategy, and I have to be a little bit worried about that. There's no extra points on the board. All the points are locked up on the left hand side there, the provinces and the duchies and whatnot. If I let this treasure trove thing get a little bit out of hand, you know, it could be a force to be reckoned with. And the best way to stop that is to put 10 ruins into his deck. Again, I discard the jack here because I know there's a workers village on top of the deck and it might have drawn dead. I wasn't counting cards there. Probably I should have. Also probably there I should have counterfeited a silver to get to 10 to buy 2 cultists because I was a bit worried about the treasure trove thing, so I wanted to start jamming his deck with ruins, in which case you should buy 2 cultists. I already have the 1 workers village, so I have enough actions to do that, but hastily, too hastily, I just trashed a copper with the counterfeit and only had $9 for that, so don't do that. That's bad play. Later on in this game you'll see another point where I could have done better. So here my opponent reacts with the beggar, which is nice for him. I assume that's why he bought it as a defense to the cultist, and it helps his money strategy a bit here. But again, I don't know how often that'll happen for him, right? In most cases it'll just be a dead blue card in his hand, much like Moat. So 8 here, I'm not actually able to get to 10 here. I check to make sure I can't, and I couldn't get to 10. 8 however is enough for Cultist Menagerie, and I have started chipping away at the peddlers, which is Real nice. Free money. Look at this. 1 money, 2 money, 3 money. Excellent. I was quite lucky in this game too. I drew quite well. So here, Jack or Cultist first. I decided to go for the Cultist because if I play the Jack and I draw money, I'll have to play the Cultist dead, and maybe I might draw into warehouses or workers' villages. So I decided to take the chance, play the Cultist first. As it turns out, it worked real well. Worked real well. Again, discarding all the action cards there. I don't want to trigger a shuffle and have a bunch of bad cards in it. I'm content with what I have right now. So here, more Cultists. Second counterfeit. That'll help deal with the treasures Jack is putting into my deck. It gives me a bit more buying power, more peddler buys, etc, etc. And right now, 9 for my opponent. And after this turn, I was a bit concerned. Maybe he might be able to rush the provinces out on me, but nah. My deck is real good at this point. I'm able to put out a lot of money. Even last turn, I was able to put out, what, 12? So I can seriously contest him on the provinces by this point in the game. So I'm not scared anymore, especially after seeing 3 ruins fly into his deck there. It's just too much. It's just too much. Cultist will kill you, man. Cultist is so strong. So strong. You have to have a very good reason to skip Cultist on the board. So here I just trashed the coppers. Again, I haven't been counting money. At this point, I feel like I have things under control. I just have to not do anything stupid and I should be good to go here. So I'm not drawing everything yet, so I say to myself, well, who else would I say it to? I'd be cheating if I was talking to other people, right? Anyways, buy more Cultist for draw. Menagerie also draws, and they have been drawing. Surprisingly, I was actually very surprised that they have been drawing consistently through the deck, because I have duplicate stuff. Duplicate silvers, coppers, the counterfeits, but somehow the deck has been very kind to me and they've allowed the Menageries to fire. So here, this hand is a kind of feature of this deck, right? I bought a workers village on my last turn just because of this reason, because the deck sort of hinges on that, finding that one workers village early in the game. So if I put a second one in my deck, you know, you're more reliable. So I do that. Luckily I find one, but I didn't have to. I could have just as easily drawn into one of my many treasure cards and stalled out there. So this is a feature of the deck. You have to be aware of it and play around it. Cater for a stall turn where possible. The last of the ruins go into my opponent's deck here, and here's where I was a bit sloppy. I wasn't thinking about the end of the game yet, but I should have been thinking about the end of the game because there's ball on the board. I didn't talk about ball yet. I saved it for the end for this purpose. Ball actually lets you pile things out for a lot less money than usual. I didn't even consider it on this turn. Perhaps I had a win here already by using counterfeit on counterfeit, chopping gold, chopping silver. My opponent does have a points lead, so I suspect that would have been quite difficult to do. But it was still worth consideration. Still worth consideration. So I do take the points lead here, and I buy a bunch of things, peddlers and menageries, to draw another warehouse to enable the menageries. I have nothing really to fear from my opponent. He doesn't have too much plus buy or gain or anything. And it's only at the end here I see myself having 6 buys, and I check, oh look, you could buy 4 menageries and 2 peddlers, and while buying the peddlers in the top right hand corner of the screen there, I glimpsed the ball, and then is when I realized, oh look, there's ball. You maybe could have done things with ball. Anyways, as it turns out, it didn't come into play at the end, but it's something that I need to keep in mind for the future games. In this series, what if ball appears in the next game, but for the next match if I qualify as well. So I do manage to find that pile out here, and I am going to take it for a win in game 2 here. The most interesting thing on this board was whether or not you want cultist first or counterfeit first. I could see the counterfeit first. I don't know. It's very difficult. I still can't tell you what to do. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.